Om Tavakatamritam Taptajivanam Kavibiriritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadatatam Bhuvinarnantiye Buridachanaha. The nectar of your words, the praise of poet-seers, elixir to parched souls, delight to listening ears, cleanser of all sins, is great and glorious. They who spread it far and wide on earth are most generous. Good evening, friends. Today we will continue with the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on page 138, and we are near the middle. Ramakrishna is speaking to devotees, the disciples of Keshav Chandra Sen, and to his own devotees. And I will read. He says, bondage is of the mind, and freedom is also of the mind. A man is free if he constantly thinks, I am a free soul. How can I be bound, whether I live in the forest or in the world? I am a child of God, the King of Kings. Who can bind me? If bitten by a snake, a man may get rid of its venom by saying emphatically, there is no poison in me. In the same way, by repeating with grit and determination, I am not bound, I am free, one really becomes so. One really becomes free. So Ramakrishna is saying that by constantly thinking that one is a free soul, how can I be bound, whether I live in the world or in the forest? I am a child of God, the King of Kings. Who can bind me? Well, what type of person can have that amount of conviction? Who is capable of controlling the mind, even when poison cannot affect the body? Pardon me, who can control the mind even if poison cannot affect the body? So, can one have such control of the mind that even external substances or anything, or any material parts of this world can affect the body? Well, Sri Ramakrishna is actually reassuring us that such control of the mind is quite possible, because he's also affirming that he is capable of doing so when he says that with grit and determination you can say, I am not bound, I am free. And he says, one really becomes so. One really becomes free. But yet we do not have that kind of conviction or that kind of willpower, and we don't have that kind of strength of mind. We may even doubt that it is possible, but it's not possible with our current state of mind, without basically preparing the mind or strengthening the mind. Just like you may not be able to lift 200 pounds today, but if you put in the effort and the training and the discipline, you would be capable of lifting 200 pounds one day. So also, if you put forth the spiritual practices and also this positive affirmation in a sense that you are a free soul, how can I be bound? And also feel that you are the child of God. God is more powerful than the things of this world. He controls this world. So who can bind me? What part of this world could bind me? Even to the point where you might get bitten by a snake, a poisonous snake, that with that conviction, the poison would have no effect on your body. It's something to think about. Now he continues. Once, someone gave me a book of the Christians. I asked him to read it to me. It talked about nothing but sin. And then he's turning to Keshav. Sin is the only thing one hears of at your Brahmo Samaj too. So the Brahmo Samaj has borrowed basically some of the teachings out of Christianity, almost the beginning of a type of Unitarian church. So some aspects of Christianity have found its way into the Brahmo Samaj teachings. And so Ramakrishna is basically calling them out on it. So he says, sin is the only thing one hears of at your Brahmo Samaj too. The wretch who constantly says, I am bound, only succeeds in being bound. He who says day and night, I am a sinner, verily becomes a sinner. We sometimes see in people that when they look, that they will accuse the world of all kinds of things, of crimes or of behavior, and think of what a terrible place everyone is because they are doing this or doing that, only to discover that it's that very same person that's doing all those same things. Their mind is basically, that's what's on their mind, that's what they're expressing, and by that constant behavior, that's a clue of what goes on in their mind, and also because they are not in control of their mind, it reflects what is in their actions. That's why they say one's actions speak louder than words. So when you see such a person, you can almost assume that what they're talking about are the very same things they themselves engage in. That's all they're thinking about. They're incapable of thinking of anything else beyond that. It's no different than saying, I am a sinner, and verily you become a sinner. The more you think about those sinful actions, and less you're thinking of God, less you're thinking of freedom, those thoughts are far off in the horizons and are not anywhere in your thought process. But if you say, I am not bound, I am free, and that is becomes your conviction, your constant positive affirmation, you will feel that freedom. It's sort of like if you watch the movie Spider-Man, and you wonder, wow, I wish I could do all those things. And while you watch the movie, you can feel your muscles twitching and corresponding to what the actor is doing. And when you come out of the movie, you almost feel like you could almost be as powerful as Spider-Man. So that has inspired you. It has triggered some nervous energy in you. You actually feel it. I would feel the same thing watching Tarzan on TV. And I think, oh, I'll go outside and I can hang on a tree and on a limb and swing around and see if I can catch another limb. So it brings up, inspiration wells up inside of you. And so you feel that by acting, and sure enough, you find out, oh, maybe I can do some of those movements, like on parkour or some of those other activities. The more you watch those videos, the more you think, well, maybe I can do that. And you try it and you discover, yeah, the possibility is there if you keep at it. It's no different than these things. I'm a sinner. Well, then you just become weaker and weaker in mind. And how are you going to have any higher thoughts? So these are all kind of clues as to how we can become better in anything that we do. So one should have such burning faith in God that one can say, "What? I have repeated the name of God." The name of God is considered so holy that it purifies everything. So if you repeat the name of God, he says, how can sin still cling on me? How can I be a sinner anymore? How can I be in bondage anymore? One of the spiritual practices is you chant a mantra meaning some aspect of God, and you concentrate on the meaning, you think about the meaning, and you think about that in prayer and meditation, in any free moment that you have when the mind tends to wander. Bring your mind back to think about some aspect of God, His vastness, His purity. All the wonders of this world all merge into something that's infinite. You can keep your mind on such thoughts, then you will feel elevated, and those thoughts will permeate in your actions to the point where you don't see sinners anywhere. You only see people struggling to become better in their own way. They may not understand how to do so, but you will see that they are in a state of struggling. And if you are capable, then you can offer consolation, you can offer help, or whatever you feel they might need. So you will feel that you are part of them, not separate from them. But when you start feeling yourself as an individual, I'm more important than anyone else, well, then you're starting to think more toward a sinner's attitude, self-centeredness, egocentric. The more you can feel that you are part of everything and everybody, and you act in a way that makes everyone happy or comfortable or inspires them, then you are working towards becoming free, unbounded by the limitations of this body or the limitations of the mind. So by keeping your thoughts on these higher thoughts, you evolve into that. And then even as you evolve into it, you'll find that that ideal is becoming finer and finer, higher and higher. It's almost like the carrot stick in front of you. You know that that's what you want to grab it, but it keeps moving ahead with you. As you improve, the ideal also becomes more subtle and more you feel that it's even more finer than what you thought it was. You might think, oh, today I'm going to be a good person, unselfish to your family, but now you realize, no, you want to be unselfish toward society or humanity. So your circle has grown to feel that you are not an individual or part of a particular family, but you see that the whole world is your family, regardless of all what your color of skin is, your caste, whether you're rich or poor or whatever, all those differences, you will feel that that is all part of you. And you will feel their suffering, you'll feel their joy. And so if a man repeats the name of God, his body, mind, and everything becomes pure. Well, God is infinite. God is beyond form, beyond name. And if you envelop every object, understand it's just another aspect of God, how can there be anything impure in that? Even the excreta, that's just a combination of molecules and atoms. It may seem disgusting from one point of view, but still it's part of everything, of existence. So how can you say that that's any worse than the smell of perfume, impartially speaking? So by enveloping everything with godliness, that purifies everything. By thinking of his name, that purifies all other names. Whatever, any thought that comes to your mind, any material object will have a name associated with it. But if you can wrap it and understand that, no, that's just another aspect of God. God is everywhere. God is contained in everything. There's not more God here and less God there. God is equally present everywhere. So how can you say that that object is less pure than that object? It's all part of infinite purity. So if a man repeats the name of God, his body, mind, and everything becomes pure. Why should one talk only about sin and hell and such things? Say but once, O Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them, and have faith in his name. Well, there becomes the part of the problem. We know that we have done something wrong, or perhaps something that's not been beneficial, spiritually beneficial, but we may not be able to say that I will not repeat them. Because how many times have people tried to lose weight by avoiding certain foods that are not good for them? But that initial conviction might last for a day, a week, 3 weeks, maybe 3 months, but a year, but then it just comes back because you still have attraction to things. You haven't actually, it's almost like you have to constantly reaffirm every day, every moment that, no, this is not good for me. This is not the way I want it to be. Let me do something. This will be good for me. Let's take only that. So, but then we don't always have the conviction that, well, maybe today I will cheat. I'll have a little taste. And then that leads the next day to a little more. So we do not have control over the mind. We cannot always say with conviction or make that promise that I will not do it again. So we start with the small things. If we commit a serious offense, if we have the threat of jail time or of a beating or being burned, something that will actually harm us more, then we will back off. If the foods that we eat give us a heart attack, and we're told by the doctors, well, that's the reason, you have a lot of plaque in your bloodstream, and you've got a heart attack. You're going to have to lower your cholesterol and go on this very strict diet and exercise and all of that. Now, until a person of authority, a doctor, has told you that, and you probably have read it all over the internet before, exactly the same stuff, but it does not have the same convincing power as when you've just gone through medical hell and a doctor has now told you there's no way you can go back to your previous life. You've got to stick to this if you want to continue living, with the caveat that will allow you to continue enjoying whatever's left of your life. So it's because of that wish to still continue enjoying life that, okay, I will make self-sacrifice and say, okay, I will stick to this diet, I will avoid smoking and all these other things that have caused me to end up in the hospital in the first place. And then your cheat days might only be 1 year apart instead of every week. So we need to be able to say that when we know that we have done something wrong that's not spiritually beneficial, that really only when you can say once and once only, I will never do it again, then the grace of God comes by and can help you. but it also requires you to practice with the small things in life. So I will no longer be selfish. Well, that's a pretty big, tall order to say all of a sudden, well, I will not do that again. I will not be selfish again. Well, because that very statement has a lot behind it, and it's not, and you have to kind of build up to it. And I will not be greedy and eat those donuts. That's the first step to becoming unselfish. I will let somebody else have those. I would like make a mental offering to everybody else and say, well, that's not for me today, but mentally I offer to everybody else. So you practice that act of mental giving. Nobody else in the room is going to know that you just did that, an unselfish act. But that's a personal commitment that you've made to yourself. And that's those kind of commitments will be the most beneficial, where only you know that you have done something to help you progress towards that goal. You don't have to go telling everybody, well, I'm on this diet and that diet, and I'm not going to eat donuts. Well, yeah, they'll say, well, others will say, well, that's good for you, good for you. They'll praise you. But if you can just give yourself that mental conviction, nobody has to know that you've just given up the donuts or whatever, or smoking or whatever. You just say, well, I'll leave those cigarettes for those who want to enjoy them, but that's not for me, and call it done. It's almost like taking that thought and letting it just evaporate into the ether. You try to picture it in your mind, that cigarette or whatever. Identify what it really is. It's just a collection of atoms and molecules. But compared to, and that just let those melt into the rest of the atoms and molecules in the universe, and they'll become indistinguishable. It'll just like ice will melt into water. There comes a point where it just disappears into the water and becomes indistinguishable. We have to just be able to take our solid thoughts, whatever we're attached to, put into the water, like God, the God of water, infinite, and just let it melt into that. And then even the object is not there for you to think about. So you should not let your mind be pulled back, or your attraction of that object, pulled back onto the object. So, and that's the practice. That's what spiritual practice is all about. Repeatedly doing those sort of things for every little thing. A Jnana yogi will say, God is not this, or the world, this is not God, that's not God. And that's what he's doing with every object. Your computer, well, that's just a collection of atoms and molecules, just part of everything else in this world. Until you've dismissed this whole world as being not unreal. It's all part of the infinite. And all that's left is the thought of the infinite and within your mind. So if a man repeats the name of God, his body and mind and everything becomes pure. Why should one talk only about sin and hell and such things? Say but once, O Lord, I have undoubtedly done wicked things, but I won't repeat them, and then have faith in his name. So you keep only his name in mind, and his name covers everything. This world is made up of so many objects. Every object has a name. Let the name of every object melt into the name of God, and the mind will become pure. I will conclude with that thought in mind. I don't want to go off on another topic here. So just read those things and try to understand them. Before I conclude, I just want to make some announcements, because we have several events coming up this week. Tomorrow night, not here, but at the Tapovan, is a new class we're starting. Swami Brahmatmananda is conducting this class, Towards the Goal Supreme. He'll be reading from that book, and there'll be discussions. It's an in-person and online attendance. If you're online, you can connect to it via Google Meet. And if you have received our weekly notifications, there is a link in that notification to sign up. This Friday at 6 p.m., we are celebrating Shivaratri here in Seattle at the Vedanta Society. That's at 6 o'clock. You should come a little earlier. The program will be about 2 hours. And we do have permission for people to park in the St. Patrick's parking lot, which is half a block south of the Vedanta Society. Those of you who are familiar with attending St. Patrick's in previous years when we had rented their facilities for our banquet, it's the same parking lot. And on Saturday at 1 p.m., there is a monthly retreat program at our retreat property, and everyone is welcome to that also. It is an in-person event only. There is no live streaming. It'll be a meditation retreat for about 4 hours. And you can also stay behind for Arti, which will be at 6 o'clock there. And this Sunday at 10 a.m., Swami Satyamayananda will give the talk on Swami Adbhutananda, from shepherd to sage. So I will conclude with a chant. Niranjanam nityam anantarupam bhaktanukampa ritavigraham vai Ishavataram paramesamityam tvam Ramakrishnam shirasa namamaha. We salute that Ramakrishna, who is without blemish, eternal and infinite in forms, who has assumed human form out of compassion for the devotees, who is God incarnate, the Supreme Lord, and who is most worshipful. Om, peace, peace, peace to all beings.